Hey friends, happy Monday morning to you. Hope you are having a great start to your week. I want to take just a few minutes and just look at a few things textually from this passage that we're studying this weekend in Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 6, and then we're skipping down to 16 through 18. A really interesting passage. Jesus is speaking directly about some things that people were already doing, some practices that they were doing, and I'll talk about that in a second, and reframing them as he had such a tendency to do. This is sandwiched a little toward the end of the Sermon on the Mount, but it's well really in the middle, but a lot of stuff to unpack. So I'm just going to dive right on in on a handful of things to take a look at. First thing we're going to notice is we're starting right away with a warning, and that should make us pay attention. Be careful. That means there's danger on the horizon, and we'll see as we unpack this what that danger is. Now, he says, be careful not to, this phrase, practice your righteousness. Practice your righteousness. What does that mean? Think about it like this, righteous practices, the practicing being pure, holy, like Jesus. As we're working those things out, a few chapters earlier, Jesus had said, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Um, I don't think that he meant necessarily that instantly you're perfect. That's pretty hard to do and a little bit overwhelming, right? But it's this idea that we're practicing, we're taking steps. You don't run a marathon. You don't say, I'm a marathon runner, and then go to the starting line, having never ran a day in your life. They fire off the gun and you take off. You're going to make it about 20 yards and you're going to be done. No, it's practicing your righteousness. So it's doing the sort of righteous acts that train us in the way of righteousness, or here at South, our mission statement, helping people live in the way of Jesus with the heart of Jesus. That's really practicing righteousness. So he gives three ways in this text that you practice righteousness. It's give is one way, right? And then down here, pray is another way. And then fast is the third way that he sort of gives. Now, I'm a little bit lazy. I don't want to do all of those all the time. I want to do it as expedient as possible. So I combine pray and fast, and I just pray fast, right? That's a joke. Okay. A lame joke, but it's a joke. So he's saying, be careful not to practice your righteousness. Some of the practices that move you to be like Jesus, become holy and righteous, and have the attributes of who God made you to be. He gives three examples: giving to the needy, prayer, and fasting. Be careful when you're doing those things, not to do them in front of others. And then here's the real kind of key: to be seen by them. And this right here is sort of a key to unlocking this whole passage. If you do, you'll have what? No reward. So let's just look at a handful of words that stick out a lot in this text. If we see the word reward, we see the phrase Father in heaven. We see that a lot. What else do we see? Looking on down, people reward in full. When you give to the needy, blah, 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 so that your giving may be in secret. So secret's another word that we see a lot. And then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. What's going on here? Well, I think it's really important to notice that there's a format. All three of these things have a similar sort of format. This is giving, prayer, and fasting. And all three, first, you'll see the word when. So it's not if. It doesn't say if. It's when. All three of these say when. So Jesus is assuming that you're doing these things, that if you're a follower of Jesus, if you're following after God, that you're taking steps, practicing righteousness to walk those things out. So it's assuming when you give to the needy, and then in each one, he says, don't do it like this. And the reason that they're doing it is for this reason. So their motive was this. And that basically, if they do it that way, they've got their reward in full. So first, assuming they did it, when, what the thing is, give to the needy, how not to do it, and why people that are doing it for the wrong reason do it, to be honored by others. And sort of this explanation that they've already got their reward in full. That's all they're going to get, right? But when you give, that's the people listening, that's us too, give to the needy. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so your giving may be in secret. He's not literally saying, don't let one hand know from the other. It's sort of a visual example to say this should be in private. It should be so private because it's between you and God. Instead of public, it goes down to the end of each of these little sections. The last thing, then your Father who sees what is done in secret will do what? Will reward you. And as we talked about that reward is communion or unity with God. It's walking with God, being led by the Spirit, and being subjects and part of God's kingdom. Really beautiful thing, and I think it's such an interesting passage. He's not condemning giving, praying, and fasting. He's inviting people into a better way, reframing the idea into something more beautiful. We don't have to get hung up on did the hypocrites literally do these things. I think maybe they did. We don't know 100% for sure. Different commentators sort of disagree on actually whether they actually did these things. I think the key is he's using a picture to say, don't do it like this, to get other people's affection and adoration and attention. The one you should be doing it for is with God, and it's about relationship. That's what he's pointing to versus religion. Religion says, do these acts, do them visibly, all this kind of thing. Jesus invites us to relationship. So what he says in secret, it's intimate, it's doing unto the Lord. That's what we should be doing. Beautiful passage. I really enjoyed studying this, enjoyed teaching, and hope this has helped. Have a great week.